Dr. Alan Lycka here, and I'd like to welcome you to How to Live a Fantastic Life show, where we will be discussing the important aspects of your life. We hope to inspire you to live the best life you can. Get out of your comfort zone and explore the awesome world around you. Break through your barriers. Take inspired action. Use the difficulties in your life to achieve the best version of you. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special lady. Her name is Toni Patillo, and for over 20 years, she's been in real estate. And before that, she was in the entertainment industry. But she's thriving more than ever. She's been awarded one of the most prestigious recognitions in her field, and she has been is now an exclusive honoree into America's top 100 real estate agents. But you know, although this is something she does, she doesn't define herself by this. Toni is very much into mindset. She's very much into coaching. She's very much into helping people through her philanthropy. And these are the things I want to concentrate in all of this, because I know Toni has a worldview that most people need to listen to and can learn from. Thank you very much for being here, Toni.
Well, I really appreciate the opportunity. It's an honor, it's a privilege, and thank you so much for having me.
So I'm going to start with a real tough question. How did you get to where you are now? A woman of your caliber has not gotten there without climbing mountains of adversity. And I mean mountains, racial mountains, other mountains, women mountains, all these things are not easy for a black woman in 2022, let alone the years you did the things you did. So let's go back a little bit and find out how Toni got to where she is.
Wow. Well, that is going back a little bit, and I was very, very blessed and fortunate to have parents who were very engaged in community and very much about empowerment. And my parents, of course, when I was 5 years old, I was, born here in Los Angeles. But my mom was a real estate broker, and my dad, he had multiple different types of work that he was involved in. But we had an opportunity to move to Yakima, Washington. Yakima, Washington is the Pacific Northwest. There was a dear friend of our family's who had a property out there, 11 acres, and it was across the street from the Yakima Firing Center. And we had the opportunity to acquire that property and relocate from California to Washington State, which was, this wonderful place to raise kids and whatnot. Although I was the youngest of four. And I was also 11 years, junior to my next sister, my sibling. And so she and I were the two that actually relocated to Washington State. My other two siblings were already married and gone and with children and whatnot. So we moved to Washington. And, my mom was going for a position at a real estate firm there in Yakima, Washington. Yakima, by the way, is an Indian reservation. So that's a whole nother dynamic of this journey. Well, my mom gets this opportunity to go to Yakima, Washington and sell real estate. Well, lo and behold, when they saw that she was an African-American woman, back on those days, we didn't have technology. We didn't have, ways of doing phone interviews. Well, we did. She did a phone interview, but there was no visuals, right? She, when they discovered she was a black woman, suddenly the position was no longer available, and they had changed directions and whatnot. So that sent my mom and my dad into a whole nother zone of activity, to say the least. And we left Yakima, we went over to Seattle. Washington, which is about 140 miles east. And my mama thought, okay, so let's see about getting some work over there. Same thing happened, actually. So we ended up coming back to Yakima, but my mom got very, very ingrained in the civil rights movement and super, super involved. And we ended up building a cultural center. We lived about 15 miles out of Yakima in a little town called Sela. Well, anyway, that started the whole journey of the racial thing. I didn't even know that I was an African-American little girl. I didn't know there was a difference between races per se. I knew that, living in LA, we have a multitude of races, but we didn't look at each other as being black or, Indian or Chinese or Japanese. We were just people. And sure enough, life changed, and we had to really adapt to it. And what we discovered is that many of the kids in the community of Yakima that were African American, they were also being deprived of their history. So my mother, who was very, like I say, she leaned into this thing big time. She got quite involved in protest and different types of activities, but she became pretty radical in this space. And my dad, of course, was right there to support her. So this is what I grew up around in this civil rights movement. Now, the school system that I was going to, I was the only little African-American kid in this school. And I got, made fun of. I got bullied. It was pretty intense, to the extent that my mom and dad pulled me out of that school and just homeschooled me from there. They were making fun of me. They were calling me names. They were spitting spitwads at me. And when I'd go to the teacher and say, I need help. This is not fair. And she would say, well, you're just going to have to get used to this. You're going to have to toughen up and get used to this, Toni. I thought, oh, wow. So, and it progressed. It got worse. And I went to the principal. The principal was even worse. It was, I was being reprimanded. And they said they were going to call my parents. I said, please, please call my parents. So sure enough, they pulled me out of the school. And I stayed and my mom homeschooled me until the 11th grade. And then I went back into the public schools in Yakima. That first school where I was being bullied was in that little town, Sela, Washington. Sela was a lot of Ku Klux Klan. Okay, we had crosses burnt on our front yard. We had all kinds of things that we endured during these days, and it was pretty intense. But my mom really leaned into it. My dad, so they became quite active in the community, and they, like I said, they built a cultural center on our land. It was around, they called it the African Village, 20,000 square feet, 2 stories. They built a stage there. My father was a director as well, so they created a whole performance group. And my mom taught there. She taught mathematics. She taught history. She taught arts and crafts. So there was this whole thing that we designed and developed as a way to empower the African American community and the people of color. This is where we got very involved with the nation, the Indian nation, and it just that's where it began. So when I was old enough to go to college, I went over to Seattle, Washington, and then from there, my sister, who had also moved to Washington with us, she was 11 years older than I am, and so she was graduating from high school in that first year when we got to Yakima. So I basically grew up after my sister went back. She went back to California. She was actually recruited by Pearl Bailey, And my sister's a vocalist, and she was recruited by Pearl Bailey. And then from there, she went on to explore her entertainment career. Worked for people like Duke Ellington for many years up until he passed. She worked with Andy Williams for years. She had multiple people that she was fortunate enough to work with. But all of this while she was doing her thing and traveling and back on the road, I was home with mom and dad as like an only child. But I was quite, I didn't have your normal childhood, if you would say, where I had my friends and I would go to no, it was pretty much all adults around me. I did have friends that I knew, but it was just a different kind of an environment, a different kind of an upbringing. And that's, it didn't really hit me until I got back to California and I was working with my sister in the entertainment business. It didn't dawn on me until I was much later in my adulthood that how influenced I was by that experience in Washington and with my parents.
Isn't it amazing how such a negative experience in school led to such a positive experience in your real life?
Yeah.
And the key is, I have a motto, and it's like this: it's not what happens to you, it's what you do with what happens. And
right.
I think that is a very important thing. And I think that's a philosophy that you embody as well, because no matter what's happened to you, you've risen above it. You've literally taken the situation and turned it into an opportunity for you.
Yeah.
And that has always been something you've done throughout your whole life.
Yeah. 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 It's been quite a beautiful journey as I, look over the past. And I've never, and this is, I credit my parents for this, because they didn't raise us with a lack mentality. They didn't raise us with a victim mentality. We really did not. We never knew if we had money or not. It didn't matter, because we were well provided for. We were well cared for. We were loved. And so we didn't fall into that boat of victim. That was one of the things. And still today, I have a tough time leaning into, well, I'm African American, I'm Black. So therefore, that equates to me having a rough, I don't know. I can't fall into that bag. If you want, you can have whatever you want. There's nothing that can stop you from having whatever it is you want. And I don't care what your color is, what your gender is. There's nothing that you can't have or that you can't achieve. So I just refuse to use our race or my gender. I refuse to allow any of that to put a label on me. You know what I mean? It's just like, no, we all have a shot here.
Yeah.
And
I think that's important here, is that, things in life are going to knock you down. There's no doubt about it. There's always going to be something that you fail at. There's always going to be something that you try. And despite your best efforts, it's not going to work out the way you want it to.
Yeah.
I don't care what that is, whether it's in the entertainment industry or whether it's in the business of selling. You might put together a huge property deal, and then at the last minute it falls through. And that's the business of real estate. That real estate is always one of those things that works, and then it doesn't work.
And then it doesn't.
You're having a boom, and then you're not having a boom.
That's so true.
There's money to be made in boom times and non-boom times.
That's
based on how you look at it.
That is absolutely correct. Yeah. It's all mindset.
Yeah, exactly.
It's mindset, but it's also having faith and trusting that, especially when I just believe that you must stay connected to source. your source. That could be, I mean, there's a lot of people have their religions. Then there's those folks who have their various modalities of practice. Whatever that connection is for you, I call it being connected to source. And, I was not raised in the church. My siblings were raised in the church. My parents grew up and they were involved very heavily with the church. But when the civil rights movement was in high motion, my mom began to see things that were a little disturbing, a little hypocritical, for lack of a better way to describe it. And so she kind of leaned away from the whole church thing while I was coming up. And so I didn't grow up going to Bible study or, I didn't grow up in the church. But I knew, after I get to a certain age, I knew that there was something that was magical about this place, this life, this experience. And I knew it was bigger than us. I knew it was bigger than us. I didn't know what it was, but I would hear about different things with respect to religion and the Bible and the stories, the biblical stories, scripture, etc. But I didn't really, I wasn't connecting with it. Okay. But I did know that there was something that was bigger than us that was running this thing. Right. So I began to study, and I started studying metaphysics. And then I started to get deeper into universal laws, if you would. And anyway, it was just kind of an interesting thing. And the more I began to learn, and the more I began to connect, and the more I realized this is energetic. This is those kinds of things I truly resonated with. So I began to just do more personal development, if you would. And it wasn't something I was looking to convert anybody else to, or, get them to see it my way. It was very personal for me, very private. So this has been an ongoing thing, and this is where I'm at today. But, my whole objective today is I really want to carry on. I really want to continue to carry my parents' legacy. And that is, how many people can I help? How many people can I help make a difference in their lives? And whether that's in entertainment, or whether that's in real estate, or whether that's just in general, with, being able to empower people of all walks of life, all genders. And what can I do to make a contribution? What can I do to help make a difference in your life? Well, we all have the ability to soar, and we need to embrace and empower, right? So.
Yeah, that's huge. Now, Toni, if you met a younger version of yourself on the street, what advice would you give?
That is so funny.
What advice would you give that younger person?
Well, first, I would say there's several things, but, don't get attached to the outcome. Be clear about what it is you want and why. Be clear about what it is you want and why. And get to know yourself so that you can understand what your purpose is, because each one of us has a purpose. I'm really strong on not getting attached to the outcome, because what happens is you set yourself up for disappointment. So it's, allow yourself to go with the flow, get in flow, and learn to listen to your gut. Listen to your gut. When your gut speaks, it's mostly right on point, because you can feel it. So, pay attention to what you want and why, and really stay close to your passion. Stay close to what you resonate with. It's important, because that's where you know, for many, many years, we're conditioned and we're raised to believe that we should do this, then we should do this next, and then we should do that, whether that's go to school, get your education, get a good job, meet your loved one, meet your other better half, your husband, your wife, have children, raise them. There's this whole conditioning of this is how it's got to go. So what happens is when people don't find themselves on that journey, then suddenly they feel like they're short, or, you know, something happened that's wrong, or I missed out, or whatever. They go to the victim mode. But the truth is, we're all right where we're supposed to be. We're all right where we're supposed to be. Even everything happens for a reason. And even when it doesn't feel good, there's something good to come from it. There's something good to come from it because we grow. It's like change. You know, when the pandemic hit, everything changed. And everyone has been scrambling and just completely affected by this. And it's change, but change is growth. Change is growth. There's a ton of, I could probably name more positive things that have taken place since the pandemic than the negatives. And so we have to embrace whatever it is that is circling around us. We need to embrace it and learn that there's another message in there for us. There's a deeper message for us. So anyway, that was kind of a long answer.
No, and that's a good answer. That's a very good answer. Toni, this show is called How to Live a Fantastic Life Show.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to ask you a pointed question. How do you live a fantastic life?
Oh, I love that question. I love it because I really am an avid believer that you must practice personal development. And personal development means you commit to a specific time of day, or whether it's not just time of day. I personally, when I wake up, I love to first start out with an act of gratitude, really identifying all the things that I'm grateful for, all the things that I want to attract into my life. And gratitude, in my opinion, is the number one healer. It melts karma. So, you know, just starting your day with a routine, if you would, I call them rituals, where you really get to be still, connect with source, and be grateful. And then you can go into whatever it is, whether it's affirmations or prayer or decrees or mantras or some sort of, yoga, some sort of a practice where you can really get tuned in. And what I call it is tuning in. And this is a formula for a fantastic life, because once you align yourself, it doesn't mean that you're not going to have some bumps in the road during the day. It doesn't mean that you're not going to have some challenges that you'll deal with throughout your journey. But when you start your day with connecting to source and really tuning in and acknowledging what you're grateful for and visualizing what you would like to attract into your life, that's the formula for a fantastic life. And of course, being purposeful, being clear about your purpose. And, you know, there's so many of us that are just not clear. We don't even know. You know, sometimes I'll ask people that I'm working with and I'm coaching with, well, what is it that you want? What specifically? Give me the specifics. I want details. The more specific you can be, the more clarity. Universe understands clarity. So the more specific you can be, the more likely you can manifest these things. So there.
Well, you know, Toni, our time has flown by already.
Wow.
It has been a very quick half an hour.
Yeah.
I would like you to give us a way for people to get in touch with your world if they'd like to and find out more from you and the other things you have to offer.
Okay, well, I think the easiest way, I have a site. It's called everythingtonipatillo.com. And in that site, you will see my real estate life. You will see my coaching life. I just recently retired from one particular brokerage. I've been a broker for many years, but I made a transition. And so you'll see my new partnership with the, it's kind of a very high-tech brokerage, but at any rate, everythingtonipatillo.com is the best way to find me, and you can contact me through there. I'm all over social media, Toni Patillo, under @Toni Patillo, behind the Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. They've got me doing it all, but that's the best way to find me.
Understandable. And that's good. That way people can find you if they want to. Well, thank you, Toni.
Right. Yeah,
and
thank you for
sharing your wisdom today. And you were a wonderful, gracious lady. And thank you very much for sharing the time with us.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it, Doctor.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope to talk to you soon. Bye for now.
You've been listening to How to Live a Fantastic Life. Be sure and pick up a copy of Dr. Lycka's book, The Secrets to Living a Fantastic Life, on Amazon.com. And you'll want to subscribe right here on this page so you don't miss a single episode. Have a fantastic day.